Now, going back to my take on the whole thing, I went down there, struggled like crazy to get the teaching up that I did on Sunday, to get it done. I got it up, I think, Sunday night, but then I had a whole bunch of things I had to get done Monday morning. I got out of here probably around 11, drove there. It's a really long drive for me. It was a good 10 plus hours. I mean, by stopping to get gas and stuff like that. Got down there and then, you know, checked in my hotel, went out early the next morning and saw Pastor Adams there, and got to visit with Pastor Adams and some of the congregates from his church, and got to see some people I hadn't seen in a while. So that was really cool. That was awesome. And then basically sat in the courtroom the whole day. We were outside, kind of. A lot of people had the signs and stuff, and made up. There were a lot of different types of Christians there that came to support him. And then basically when they started letting people in around 8, we get in line to go in there. You know, it's like getting on a plane probably without a TSA body scanner. It's metal detector and all that stuff. So you had to go through all that. And you get up into the courtroom, and it was pretty much the courtroom, you know, they took away the whole first front row, the security there. So it kind of limited the space, because that was a lot of space. And it was a pretty small, in a way, place where people could sit. And they probably maybe had that courtroom for that reason, because they wanted to limit the amount of supporters. That's my opinion, that could be there. And the first day I sat really right behind kind of Ken Hovind. I was probably about 10 feet away from him. And his co-defendant, Paul Hansen, and then there, Ken Hovind's public defender, and Paul Hansen's, I believe he had an attorney, I think. I'm pretty sure he was a real attorney. And Paul Hansen, I believe, was the guy in charge of the trusts that were coming into question, had a lot to do with this case. And he got convicted on, man, I think 1 or 2 counts as well. And so that's another thing to pray about as well. And then the prosecution was on, you know, the right-hand side, and then the jury was on the right-hand side. And so it was basically just sitting in the courtroom and listening. The first day was mostly Ken Hovind, Brother Hovind, going over a lot of stuff, but a lot of what he was getting into was stuff he wanted to get off his chest that had been maybe pent up for, you know, all of these years, and but it didn't necessarily pertain to the case. So the judge kind of let him go into a lot of this stuff, and he had his attorney asking him these questions, this public defender, but there came a point where she just cut him off. She's like, listen, this doesn't pertain to the case. I'm not going to allow you to continue with this line of things. And a lot of it, you know, the problem that you run into is the first case was the first case. And in the court's eyes, that's a done deal, you know, and, you know, you're rehashing all of these things that have already been ruled upon. And this is what Ken has been doing for a lot of these years, is he has sent in all of these filings over and over again, different paperwork and different things to try to, and they had it all listed. And almost everything he's doing is based on some different, quote, Patriot argument. I mean, and he had some really, really wild stuff. I love the man, okay? I love him. I drove all the way down there to go do this, but this was like, for me, deja vu with my parents. When my parents got their company stolen from them back in, man, I don't know, 99, around there. It was, they went with all these different, the first one I think was right way law. I don't know. It should have been called wrong way law. And all of these Patriot arguments, and whether you want to you get into redemption or straw man or jurisdictional issues or the gold fringe on the flag or the social security number, or, I mean, there's so many different of these Patriot arguments. And you know what? There may be validity to every bit of it. Okay, and I've been there, done it. I have so been down this road, even myself personally, but not to the extent my parents were. They tried to use all those arguments to get their company back. But you know what? Here's the bottom line with all the Patriot argument stuff. If the wicked, evil government that you're going against won't recognize it and will label you as a kook, all you're doing is enabling them to rule against you. And this is what has happened, I believe, to Ken Hovind all of these years. And what it does is it not only gives them a lot of ammunition, because they can bring up all of these things, like he had this one thing where it was like, he said he was like, I don't know, sovereign citizen of must or something. And it was like, it just really made, it kind of discredited him, I would imagine. Maybe in the end, it kind of helped him because the jury looked at him like somebody that was kind of like uneducated, took a lot of people's advice. They gave him a lot of bad advice, wasn't using really an attorney, and basically didn't know what he was doing, and therefore he can't really be have that held against him because he was just taking the advice of probably a lot of well-intentioned Patriot groups. And he went from what I can gather, he went from one Patriot group to another, to another, to another, and took their advice. They did filings for him. They did all kind of work for him, probably hundreds of thousands of dollars, I would imagine, in work, in filings, in paperwork. And you know what? None of it came to anything. Not one thing, it appears, that he has done since this all started, going back to the first court case until now, has done anything but backfire on him. And he said that on the stand. He said, nothing that I've done has worked. Not one thing. And it's like, you have to understand, you're dealing with Satan. Even if there is validity, and even if you sincerely believe in what you're doing, if the court system, which you're going into, okay, which you're putting yourself under, doesn't recognize that, then everything you're doing is for nothing but for you to waste a tremendous amount of time and hassle and possibly get convicted even further of further charges, like filing these Liz pendants. You know, he said he went into this New Hampshire prison, and the guy that he met there, this Alex guy, who was a Muslim, who was in there for bank fraud. He said this guy was a, quote, answer to prayer over and over again. Well, this is the guy that helped him file the Liz pendants that got him in all this hot water, which was the main reason that got him in this hot water, which was the one count that stuck dealing with this litigation. Basically, you know, some unsaved guy who was convicted of bank fraud, filing these Liz pendants, helping him do this, and he's an answer to prayer? He would be out walking the streets now had he not done those. Okay, so again, I love Ken Hovind. Okay, I do. But this is a subject that I have a lot of experience with. And I've seen many, many people, whether it's dealing with the IRS, whether it's just trying to deal with things in the court system. I have never seen one of these Patriot arguments work. I'm not saying there hasn't been instances where they've worked. I just personally haven't. And I've been exposed to people that were fighting the IRS and in the Patriot organizations, and from every single instance that I can really remember of people that we've dealt with, some of them are still functioning, I believe. The ones that kind of, I don't know, try to operate more within the legal system. The ones that are really, really fringe and the ones that just come out, they're either all in jail or they've all been long since by the wayside. I mean, it's been, I can't tell you how many organizations I've seen come and go since I've been exposed to this movement, since I've seen what happened with my parents, and then I'm in this courtroom with Ken Hovind, and I'm hearing all the stuff he's bringing up, and I'm like, oh my word, this is like deja vu. No wonder that, you know, all of this stuff has went down, and he hasn't been able to get any kind of remedy or satisfaction because he's just so went about it the wrong way. as far as I could see. It's not, it doesn't even matter if it's valid. It doesn't matter if he's right. If Big Brother government is not going to recognize your argument, and they never do on these things, from my experience, then what good is it going to do you? All you're giving the prosecuting side is fodder to make them make you look like you're a fool. And that's what they tried to do. Honestly, when I heard the prosecuting attorneys, when she went over everything at the end, I thought for sure he was going to get convicted on all 4 counts, because she went through and she had a PowerPoint presentation and she had audio clips of him talking from prison, and she had letters that he had sent or emails or things like this where she highlighted everything. I kind of thought that unless God intervenes, and he must have, he had to have, he was going to get, and him and Paul Hansen were going to get convicted on every single account. I didn't think they had a chance unless God intervened, and he did. He only got convicted on 1. That in and of itself was a huge gift from God. Now, the next thing is to pray about him not being sentenced to some lengthy sentence, hopefully just to get out of prison. I just hope to God, if he's let out, that he doesn't continue to file these frivolous Patriot argument lawsuits, because there is not a snowball's chance in hell of him getting this stuff back at this point. Number one, he's a Christian, okay? IRS has targeted Christians. Number 2, he's going against the IRS, okay? And 3, he's using all these Patriot arguments. And 4, he's been a thorn in their side. They cannot let him be some stellar, shining example of how all of this stuff works so well. They have to make an example of him. Okay? I understand God can intervene. And he did. I truly believe he did. The prayer, the fasting, the people coming there to support is I really believe, the mercy of God, why he didn't get convicted on all 4 counts. Because I really think they proved that they had a case on those 4 counts. I mean, it doesn't mean I agree with the prosecution, but I know how the court systems operate, and I know the Patriot arguments don't work. I'm trying to remove my emotion from this. I'm trying to look at this objectively and not just say Ken Hovind was railroaded and this and that. Ken Hovind, there's a lot of stuff he did with these Patriot filings that really put him in the hot water that he's in right now. He tried this the first trial and got convicted on like 53 out of the 53 counts or whatever it was. It didn't work the first time, and it's not going to work the second time. And it didn't. And it wound him up in all this hot water. And again, I've seen this happen over and over and over again. So for me, it was somewhat exasperating. I was extremely grateful when I heard the verdict. Extremely. I want to see the man out of prison. I just hope that he doesn't turn around and start, right up again and then gets thrown right back in prison. I don't know. He's adamant. He's adamant. He thinks he's done nothing wrong with any of these filings. He thinks everything that he's done has been, and nothing's worked. And it's failed every time. And that's another admission out of his mouth. I have a different take on it than probably maybe some of the other people. I also have a pretty big perspective on this particular subject. Last time I ever talked to Ken Hovind was on the phone, was kind of right before this all went down. Probably, I don't know, 2004 or whatever. And I can remember right before we hung up the phone that he said, we were talking about the IRS a little bit, and he says, oh, they're nothing. And he told Pastor Adams the same thing when he had a conversation, from what Pastor Adams relayed to me. And I hung up the phone and had a really bad feeling. And I didn't want to say anything to him because I don't want to be disrespectful. But I thought, oh, Brother Kent, you don't understand. They're not nothing. They're pure evil. They are pure evil. and you don't know. And again, if you think that the IRS, the money you're paying into that, goes to running this country, it doesn't. The Grace Commission that Reagan sanctioned back in the 80s determined that not one dime of what we pay to the IRS for goes to running this country. Not one dime. There's tons of other ways that we're taxed that does that. I think there was some underestimation there. Underestimating your opponent. Not understanding what they're capable of. Not understanding how corrupt the court systems are. I mean, look at what they did to the guy. They removed him 23 times in his course when he's been in prison these, what, 8 years or so. He's been in there 100 months. 23 times. That's basically kind of a watered down version of what we would refer to as diesel therapy. Which I know somebody personally they did this to and almost killed him. Where they put you in a bus and they just send you to a different prison. And they keep you shackled in the bus. You get there at midnight and then they take you out. They let you sleep for a few hours and they put you right back on the bus and they're trying to kill you. Now, I think he had some of that from an intense perspective done to him. But they did it kind of more spread out over like this 100-month period. And a lot of the times that was so that they would take him, get him out of there, and he wasn't able to gather his things up or take his things with him, like when he left from South Carolina, and he had a huge box of his legal documents that he couldn't take with him, and he didn't even get those until, like, I don't know how many months later. I don't know, it was almost 2 years, I think. Well, they're doing that on purpose. They are trying to throw monkey wrenches into what he's doing. And yes, it is illegal. I mean, there was a lot of travesties committed against him. He kept filing these Patriot argument suits thinking that they're going to work, and really what it was doing is taking a stick and just ramming it into the hornet's nest over and over and over again. And they're like, okay, well, we're going to make your life really miserable. You're trying to make ours, we're going to come back at you. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of go over that, and you know, that's my take. There might be people say, oh, you were against. No, I'm not. I'm not against Ken Hovind. I love the man. I love him in Christ. I do. I truly do. But I also love him enough to tell him the truth. You know? And there's other people that, I believe, pastors out there and think that also tried to, I'm not going to mention any names, but they tried to kind of steer him in the right direction when this was all brewing way back. And he kind of went his own way, did his own thing, used the Patriot argument, and has just been emphatic that that is the way that he is going to pursue it. And I'm telling you, it doesn't work. And all this is further evidence it doesn't work. They won't recognize it. Even if you're right, it doesn't matter if the court system won't recognize it. And then they're going to go to the jury and say, what is this guy? He's some kind of crazy man. What is this? And they're gonna bring all this stuff up, and the jury's gonna be like, what? So it's a no-win situation when you try to use those Patriot arguments in court. And he used ones, the stuff that he was bringing up, the stuff I never even had heard of. I mean, wow. So I say this as an example for my listeners. If you're contemplating doing this, I would highly discourage you from going that route. I've never seen it end well when you go that route. Regardless of how right you may be or think you are. You know, you go into a U.S. court jurisdiction and you got to play by their rules. They have a rubber ruler. They stretch it any way they want. And even if you're right, they're not going to let you get the upper hand on them. And that goes with the IRS or even the court system. And that's pretty much my take on it. Obviously, nothing's changed as far as I want to see this man out of prison. And I just gave you all the information on what you can do further and to pray if you feel so led to fast about it. And but as far as that goes, I just wanted to kind of give you an update there on this. And so now then we're going to segue into the next report. This just came out last night. And this is a contrast of, you know, you have poor Ken Hovind in jail for, you know, 100 months, and he's in a 7x9 cell in lockdown 23 hours out of the day. And they also know that he wants to expose the prison system and the court system. And he's written all these books, and he's gotten like 2 more doctorates since he's been in there, and some other degree. And they know that. See, the problem is he's telegraphing all of his punches, and he's basically saying what he wants to do. So now they're saying, oh, really? Okay, well, we're going to put you in lockdown 23 hours of the day. We're going to put you in isolation. Basically, it sounds like to me, he's an ADSEG, which is administrative segregation, in a 7x9 cell with a sleeping on the floor with a bunkmate in lockdown 23 hours out of the day. They're wanting to make sure it's as little. So this is why I don't feel all warm and fuzzy about, oh, well, he got off on 3 of the 4 counts. Yeah, but the one has unlimited sentencing potential, and he's already 62. It's not like, you know, I mean, they give him a 30-year sentence or whatever, or, you know, and you know, want to keep him in there. He's probably never going to see the light of day. Or who knows, 100-year sentence. I've heard that bantered around. So that's up to this wicked judge, Casey. So that's something that you want to think about there.